Hi there, my name is False, and this is my second episode here on Project Nodenium. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for tuning in for episode 2, but if you're new here, welcome in. As you can probably see behind me, here's my starter base that I built on episode 1. While I'm super happy with the train I built, it does come with one issue. It currently leads nowhere. In this video, I finally plan to fix that problem by expanding the rails and building a new structure. But before I can do any of that, I'm gonna need a lot of iron, so I think it's only fair that we build an iron farm. Hi guys, welcome back to episode 2 of my Project Nodenium series. As you saw in the intro there, I'm really looking to expand my railroad today, but I do have one big problem to tackle before I can do that. Currently, I have a total of 4 iron ingots to my name, and I need about 200 or so anvils, so that's just not gonna cut it. I already went ahead and selected the design that I was going to use for the iron farm, and it is incredibly cheap to build. It is essentially a hole with villagers in it. So let's not waste any time, let's hop right into a cinematic.
Sun is falling, speed in the black. Nobody driving, we're in the back. To the end of the world. Tides will rise, tides will fall with the gravity of you.
Alrighty, just like that, my iron farm is already done. That was not very hard to do at all. With the help of these 2 nice kind of zombies here, I should hopefully have all the iron like I'll ever need. Obviously, a stack of blocks isn't a lot yet, but we'll get there. Now that the iron farm is done, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what I'm going to be building today. Eventually, I want to fill in this whole plains biome that I'm standing in right now, but I think that'll come at a later date. So for now, I'm just going to focus on this island over here. As you can see, I built this bridge here to connect the main landmass over to this island, but if I fly up here, there's just nothing here. The train just comes to an end, and it feels pretty awkward, so I want to fix that today. So my idea for this area is kind of like an older building, because as you can see, these like telegraph wires and my steam train, like this seems like an older part of the world, so I think it needs somewhere to maybe stop and somewhere to like refuel. I got a comment on my last video that told me what the name of this car was, and this is like a coal car, but it has a technical name. So it made me start to think, like, where does this coal car actually get refueled? Where do the passengers stop to get off at? It needs like a destination instead of just going on and on forever. So I want to make like a building where all of these things can happen. So yeah, in case you can't tell, I have a pretty loose vision for this build, but regardless, I really want to get to building. So let's go get some materials and then we'll check back in. Already, my materials are all gathered up. As you can see here, I only have 6 shulker boxes, but pretty much each one of them is full to the brim. So it's not a lot of materials, but it's a lot of just random items. Like, as you can see here, I just have a single yellow candle, um, a bunch of like random signs and stuff, sweet berries. Yeah, it's not a lot of materials, but it's super random stuff. So it took a little bit longer than I expected. But all that being said, I am so ready to get this build finally underway. So let's not waste any time and let's go get to building. Just like that, the build is finally complete. I feel like every time I say this, I have a script, but honestly, this build did take much longer than I thought it would. I experienced quite a lot of challenges while building this thing, so I'm going to go around and talk about some of the challenges I had to overcome, some of the techniques I used, and just stuff like that. So I guess we can start at the front here with this little bit of like landscaping I did. If I go into free cam here, it sort of gives like a nice pop of red, just a little bit of color that complements the building, and I think that's kind of nice. And then of course there's the big tree that I built, and I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. It doesn't look the best from below, it looks a little bit like confusing, but specifically from this angle over here, I think it turned out really nicely. And the branches are pretty nice, there's a good amount of like air in between them, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Initially, I was actually going to have like a spruce forest around here, but I just did not like how it looked, so I ended up going with this tree instead, and I think it works a lot better. Alright, now that that's out of the way, we can head over to the main building here. Actually, first, let's just talk about this little like water tower thing. It's fairly simple, it's just like fences, some spruce walls. Oh, but actually on top, I used these little mini heads here to kind of round out the roof, and I think that looks super duper cool. But yeah, it was just to add a little bit of interest to the build. Alright, now we can actually talk about the main building. So this is some sort of like maintenance shed, like ice house, just sort of like an upkeep or like a stop for the steam train, as I mentioned previously. So this little overhang is sort of to like shelter the train as it rolls up here. It comes up to this like landing station, and then this is supposed to be like a sliding door. This is what it like would slide along. And then as you can see inside, there's a little bit of ice, but we'll get to that in a second. So as you can probably tell, this build is incredibly rectangular. Like, it is such a simple shape, and when I first built it, it just didn't feel good enough. It felt very basic, and it felt like I could have done better. So to make up for that, I put a lot of effort into the texturing and a lot of the details to kind of hide the fact that it was a very basic shape. So if you go around the build, you can see all sorts of details. You have the coral and the signs you've seen that before probably. That's supposed to be like wood grain. But then I also did some forced lighting with dark oak and blackstone to sort of complement the red, to bring a little bit of like contrast and color in here. And then I also tried to focus a lot on the details. So my steps are made out of campfires and they're connected with levers. And then here as well, the support pillars are helped with levers. And then one of my favorite things is actually this window design that I did. And it just uses banners and pale oak wood to act as the window design rather than having like actual glass in there. So that way I can get a darker window without having to like sacrifice the interior. And actually on the inside here, I used banners again, but this time instead of doing them black, I did a gradient blue background. So it sort of looks like the sky is poking through. And then I actually put ochre frog lights behind the windows to kind of emit a little bit of light. And they are a little bit purple, but for the most part, unless you're really looking, you can't really tell. And then, as I previously mentioned, this whole interior is sort of like an ice house or some sort of like maintenance building. So this is supposed to be like a saw that cuts up the ice, and then there's like a pulley system up above that grabs the ice, and then this door would slide to the side, and then you could drag the ice out of the building. Then there's some copper grates in the floor for any runoff, like this ice down here, so that the floor isn't all damp. But yeah, I mean, it's a fairly like simple interior. I just didn't want to leave it hollow in here. And actually, I do need to cover that up there. So it's not completely done yet, but you get the gist of it. And then I think the last thing I really want to talk about is the roof up there. So let's head up there quickly. So the first thing I did was make this like chimney out of bricks. And it looks pretty cool. I used glass to kind of bring the walls out so it fits a little better, and from a distance you can't even really tell that glass is there, so it works. And then I put a candle on top of a bell to get sort of like this pointy chimney thing. I can put a reference on screen, but I think I copied it down pretty well. And then this part here was really weird to do. I went through multiple iterations and I just could not get the shaping right. But eventually I talked to a couple other members on the server, Zay and Panda, and they helped me come up with this design with the pots and the player heads. So now whenever you come down here, it has a pretty nice slope to it. But yeah, that was super hard to do. That was probably the most difficult part of this whole build to come up with. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up for today's build. But before I go, there is one other thing that I want to do. Right now, one of the members on the server is hosting a competition where you can build a piece of artwork in a gallery, and a bunch of people are doing it, and I haven't checked it out yet, so I want to go do that really quick. Okay, I just came through the portal and I was not expecting it to be this big. This is insane. This probably doesn't like do it justice. This is huge. It's even got like floor designs and stuff. Okay, I gotta go check this out. For the time being, it seems like nobody has actually entered their submissions for the competition yet, but I'm sure they've been working on them in creative, and it actually doesn't end until June, so I guess people still have a lot of time. But I'm kind of interested in this. I might have to build something here. So the prize for this competition is like a stack of diamond blocks, a custom build, and I think a custom trophy. So it would be pretty cool to enter this. So if anybody has ideas as to what I could build here, please let me know. Alright, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys for sticking around until the end, it really means a ton to me. Hopefully you like the build. It's definitely not the most complex thing I've ever built, but hopefully next episode will be something a little bit cooler. So yeah, stay tuned. Anyways, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.